Welcome to the Omega webinar. Please welcome Manisha Vaswani, Strategic Advisor at Omega Consulting.
We are pleased to welcome you to Omega Consulting discussion with Miles Boynton, the Digital Marketing Manager at Amazon Web Services in the Partner Marketing Division. For the last 5 years, Miles has been at the forefront of digital strategy and execution for various campaigns, product launches, and global initiatives that highlight AWS partners in collaboration with AWS. He also oversees the social media strategy for partner marketing. Additionally, our founder, Keenan Thomas, will contribute his insights and expertise on the topic. Let's begin. So Miles, welcome and thank you for being here. And I think the very first question I think all of us want to know is, tell us, how did you come to be at the current marketing role at AWS?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Manisha, and excited to be here talking on this podcast. My journey with AWS, I would say it first started when I was at university. I had the opportunity to intern at a few different technology startups. And so through those different experiences that I did a little bit of marketing, a little bit of operations, a little bit of strategy. And so through that, I kind of got excited about technology and kind of a startup culture. And so through that, when I was graduating from university, I was excited to see what options there were. So I applied to quite a few places, and Amazon was lucky enough to hire me. And so since then, I've worked at Amazon, specifically at AWS, which has been, super fun so far.
Great. And AWS is the buzzword and we use it all the time. And Amazon, of course, is one of the top leading companies in the industry. So what's it like working for such a large company?
Yeah, I think for me, it was definitely an adjustment from the really tiny startups that I'd worked with in college to going to one of the biggest companies. I think, I think there's over 1 million employees worldwide, which is kind of crazy. And so I learned that, it is easy to get lost. So you kind of have to pull yourself up and, actively seek out opportunities. I think a big thing I learned is to make a lot of good connections and build trust with as many people as you can. So that way, whenever you have a question or a new project that you're unsure of how to get started, or you did a great job of something and you want feedback on it, you know who to go to and the people that will have your back. And so definitely getting to know as many people as you can definitely makes all the difference, I think, at such a huge company.
That's interesting. There are so many people who would like to get through to AWS and work with Amazon, but some get through and some do not. Are there any key skill sets or mindsets that you think have contributed to your success at AWS?
Yeah, very good question. I think, it's very dependent on what your job role is. So my answer will be very different from if you're a developer or software engineer, because that's, a whole different skill set. But I think, by and large, being adaptable and being ready to dive into new projects, because I think it's very easy at Amazon to get sucked into a lot of different things that you might not have signed up to do. And so being willing to tackle those new projects definitely makes you successful. I also would say, we have different leadership principles at Amazon. I think there's about 16 of them at this point. But that's kind of how our culture is guided and the work we do is guided. And so some examples are like bias for action, learn and be curious, think big. And so there are things that, you might think, oh yeah, of course, you should do that at any job. But I'd say at Amazon, we really, live through them and believe in them. And so the more of that you can do, the better. And so I think how I got to be successful is probably the easiest, especially when you're new to something, is bias for action. And so even if you don't know exactly what's going on, to be willing to do something and to dive into something and be timely and responsive, I think that makes all the difference. And then people are like, oh, he's ready and excited to help. And then they give you more projects and stuff. So that's something that helped me, especially when I joined Amazon. Amazon.
I completely agree. Putting yourself out there and networking and just taking action has always worked for me. But recently, the things in the business atmosphere are changing. There are so many consumer or typical, stereotypical roles that we have in businesses that are changing. The consumer is no longer a regular consumer who pays and buys products. Now the consumer can be another business. So my question is, how does B2B marketing differ from B2C, and what are some key strategies for success in the B2B space? And this question is for Keenan, you as well.
Yeah. Right. I guess, do you want to start, Keenan, or should I?
Sure, I can jump right in to kind of share a few of my bits of wisdom. One thing that I've noticed when it comes to B2B marketing is it focuses a lot about the organizations, right? Industry professionals, decision makers within specific groups or agencies, while B2C, or business to consumers, is marketing targets individuals or household with personal needs or preferences. And you can think of it as a lot of B2B, B2C sales cycles are shorter and can be influenced by emotions or trends that individuals face, especially if it's, your average consumer, like your mom, your dad, just to name a few. When it comes to some of the messaging, right, for B2B, business to business, is more formal, focused on expertise, return on investment and problem solving, often highlighting case studies, white papers, and a lot of product demos for sure, in order to convey your message of value to those businesses. But the one thing that I really appreciate from the successes of the key strategies in the B2B space is mainly the formality and how well companies are able to truly convey value as well as that return on investment to businesses. So when developing or approaching another business, it's really crucial to ensure that you understand the payback period. If a company is going to be investing thousands of dollars into your product, that they understand how this is going to create the value, how they're going to receive their return on investment for investing into your business, right, into your product. And then also, what is the outcome? What is the impact that particular product will have on their business long term? So really highlighting that and really keeping that as part of your key objectives when going into an engagement or into an agreement with another business would be essential. But there's a lot of other strategies and approaches to this, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this as well, Miles.
Yeah, of course. I think the interesting thing I see more from a marketing perspective is just, a lot of differences with B2B versus B2C, but a lot of strategies, I would say, because I guess at the end of the day, it is more formal, as you mentioned, and it's more, a lot is on the line. It could be usually it's a lot bigger amounts of money involved and deals involved. And so you have to be very methodical and careful because you don't want to lose a big chunk of business. But at the same time, I think there's strategies in B2C that work that B2B is starting to take advantage of. One part of it is, being authentic and, having a distinctive brand, which I think helps, and, understanding your customer and using a variety of methods to reach those customers. And so, it might be at the end of the funnel, as we call it, the business funnel. It might be, as you mentioned, demo calls, webinars, very, in-depth or, consideration for B2B when you're getting closer to making a buying decision. But at the same time, there's not all customers are ready for that. So how do you reach them when they're maybe more in the awareness stage and they, want to learn a little bit, but they don't want to sit through an hour-long demo, that they don't have time for that. And so how do you reach them? And so I think B2C does a lot of cool experimental and creative approaches to marketing, especially in the awareness thing. They can be very quick, like social media ads or banners or, I guess emails as well, landing pages. And so a variety of different things you can try. And that's something I've started to notice in B2B more, especially over the last few years, a lot more interest in videos and social media. At Amazon AWS, we're kind of following that, where you might have seen cool stat that NFL ads for AWS for NFL football games, where that's not going to make a big company decide to buy something right then and there, but keeps them excited and interested, and is a creative approach to reaching new customers that might have not been aware of what AWS is and how their cloud services and analytics and whatnot what they can do for their business. I did not have the opportunity to be on that campaign, but I think it's a great example of where B2B can still be creative and fun, and it's all about kind of testing new things out. I think B2C, it's a lot quicker, so sometimes you can test ideas out a lot sooner, but I think B2B is doing more of that.
Great insights. And we have another buzzword that's been doing the rounds, that's AI. Do you think that AI would fundamentally change the landscape of marketing, especially within the B2B tech space?
That's a great question. And oftentimes people don't have those conversations about the aftermath of artificial intelligence in marketing because it's so new. There's a lot of new tools being developed. A lot of companies are integrating different protocols and policies in place to start rolling a lot of these artificial intelligence operations or bots, if you will, into their organization. So we'll begin to see, I would say, in the next year or so, really how these AI, fundamentals are really impacting marketing on a cost effectiveness scale. But one thing that has come to mind is the most effective B2B marketing strategies, increasingly integrating artificial intelligence, is through the use of personalization and instant engagement, seamlessly being embedded, especially when you think of companies like Meta. If you are a user of Meta and you're leveraging Facebook to communicate with your family and or friends, you would notice that in certain aspects that you would receive advertisements from websites that you were going through. I know recently I was looking for some presents for family members during the Christmas season, and I would see as I was scrolling through Facebook that there would be pop-ups of advertisements from companies that I was looking into and or purchasing products from. And I thought, how are they getting this data? But then I also think that AI is powering the data analysis and automation that enables the highly personalized marketing campaigns that companies like Meta are leveraging, while also facilitating real-time interactions through chatbots and other conversational interfaces. I know at Omega Consulting, we rolled out 2 years ago XChat, which is very similar to a chatbot, but it practically is utilizing just the data on our existing website. So if you can think of a chatbot, or in this instance, OpenAI is a very popular chatbot, where it gathers information from the World Wide Web, but the XChat is very unique because it's just curating data from just your individual website. So if you have another business that's interested in your services, they'll put in a query like, what are the services of this business? And it'll come up with those results without giving any other infiltrated information about what other competitors are doing, etc. So I think all in all, the B2B tech space when it comes to AI marketing is extremely exciting, but more so there's a lot of innovation being utilized to really personalize the experience.
For sure. Yeah, I agree there. And I think obviously on the content side, like what the customer is seeing, I think, a lot of companies are investing in AI to create better user experiences, like websites, etc. As you mentioned, like chatbots, that's a huge thing. And then, creating content. I think what's interesting is that some of it, because AI is so huge, a lot of people are interested in the effects of it and, when to use it, when to not, and what type of content is best. I think an example can be, certain like descriptions or copy can be, that's a great example where you can train an AI to write in your language, your brand, and that's kind of automated and can help reduce a lot of time. I also think though that you still want someone at the end of the day to check it out and make sure the prompts are working the way they're supposed to edit as needed, and to give it occasionally that human touch that sometimes it doesn't always have. I think a great example for marketing too is the operational side of AI. As far as like just because you're seeing like maybe ads or images that maybe AI created, automated all of the work in the background of, internal processes, internal reviews, countless things like that, where AI is like the powerhouse, and it already is saving a lot of time, energy, and that's a huge, I think, value to companies and to marketing teams. And so consumers may not be seeing that, but marketing teams definitely are. And I think, especially in B2B, a lot of B2B companies are, even creating their own AI to tackle challenges, like you mentioned, Keenan.
Interesting. It's funny that before this meeting, I was actually chatting with a chatbot, and I was repeatedly typing human agent in the chat, and it would not connect me. But with AI generating so much more content, how can brands ensure that they maintain a human touch? Is it even possible? Is it even necessary at this point?
And I think you can never lose the human touch, regardless of how advanced these AI bots or content becomes, if you will. One thing that came to mind is to maintain a human touch in AI-generated content, brands should focus on authenticity, like Miles mentioned earlier, personalization, and you have to have some sort of human oversight by incorporating relatable anecdotes, just to ensure that the content aligns with your voice as a brand, right? And having human editors to review the AI outputs before publication, because if you are just going to utilize these AI generated content and just post it, let's say to LinkedIn, for example, and it doesn't have your brand voice, then you're going to receive a disconnection immediately. And people are not going to people are not going to share. And I think it's very easy for the consumer of this content to say, this is written by a robot, right? There's no heart to it. There's no energy behind this, right? It's almost as if there's no purpose. It's just, here's some information, read about it, right? And I think at that point, anyone can do that. But I think what really sets a lot of companies apart that I really aspire to are those that really focus on how do we leverage AI to give us ideas for how we can improve our content display, but how do we kind of still have our voice behind it? And one thing that I think is really crucial is nothing beats a real story, right? Sharing testimonials, Miles, you mentioned earlier, sharing case studies, really just embracing, what it is that your business is doing and how other customers can replicate that same success within their business.
Agree. Yeah, I would add that it's a balance. And yeah, if you want authenticity, it can't start and end with AI because, to be authentic, I think that's a human characteristic. And so I think, it's a balance between, using the AI tools to enhance what you're already doing as a marketing team or as an organization. But I think at the end of the day, yeah, you have to have a little bit of both. And so I think my prediction is, the teams that are only focused, or companies, that are only focused on cutting costs and, time, they'll probably be the ones to automate as many things as they can. And with that, maybe a lot of content will become AI generated. But as Keenan alluded to, I think people will still figure it out and notice. And especially when you're dealing with different mediums of content and, marketing collateral like videos. Videos is huge. I think that's only going to become bigger for marketing teams and having a video strategy that works for a company. And while you can make AI videos, we're not to the point where you can completely, have a case study that features a person. I mean, you can, but again, there's a whole debate of should you, which, we could get into on another day. But I think, it's a balance of knowing when to use it or when to maybe lean less on that for authenticity and to lean more on your subject matter experts and thought leaders, especially in B2B and technology, because building trust is huge and it takes a long time to build it and not a lot of time to lose trust. And so I think that's why you kind of have to be very careful and methodical when you're kind of using AI. I think at this stage, you can use it for certain things, again, copy is great, descriptions, those kinds of things. But then I think when you're doing a lot more, videos, case studies that you want to make sure to get right, you kind of use a combination of, having an AI maybe review or draft something up, but then having a subject matter expert to take a look and see what works best. Because I think building trust is important, and better to go slow but do it right the first time than lose trust and have have to, go back to the drawing boards.
For me personally, and for many of the people I know in the academic field and in the professional field, they would not want to be associated with organizations that don't have a face or a voice behind their message. So in an increasingly digital world, how can brands build genuine connections with their customers and foster a sense of community?
Yeah, I guess I can start and say there's a lot of different ways to do it. And in any field, I think, community is important, and in any industry too. Talking maybe just about tech and B2B, I think for, building community, I think that's one of the best opportunities where the brands that care will invest time to do it right and to get, diverse groups of people in said community on it, whether it's a topic or a product or education. Like there's countless things I could think of at Amazon. We have many different communities online on social media. A lot of those are owned by AWS or Amazon, but then there's a lot of forums and communities that are user-led. And so it's, and they're just interested in, say, migration of, the cloud or to the cloud, where they're interested in cloud security or generative AI, as we've been talking about. And so I think that's one of the best ways where, it's not like a sales pitch where, someone wants to make a sale. I think community is a great way to be, a little more informal and a little more casual, and a great way for, businesses to connect with their consumers and their customers and see what they're thinking and they're feeling, problems they're running into, things that they're noticing that maybe you're not even aware of when you launch a product or service or you create something. So I think the more community building, the better. And I think oftentimes we kind of talk about this, but being customer obsessed. And so instead of making all the decisions you think are best and then just hoping they work, how can you kind of lean into using communities and customer engagement to see what the customers are saying and what they think, and then using that kind of to that as your North Star to guide your company and your mission and your product. I think that's a great way to go about it.
Yeah. And just to build on some of those examples that you provided, Miles, especially when it comes to genuine connections with their customers, from my experience just working with other founders, what I've seen to be extremely helpful is that some of the best founders that I've seen have worked with their customers on a very personal level, as in they would actually meet up with their customer at said coffee shop, or they'll actually buy out a restaurant. Now, I know it's not accessible to everyone to just buy out a restaurant, but for some businesses like Amazon, who have the capital, you can buy out restaurants and actually have opportunities for customers to come to meet with said fellows from your organization and just have dialogue about the products, about the services that are being provided, and really just getting their input, because I kind of look at brands as if you're building a building, right? It's brick by brick. And oftentimes, in order for us to get to that top level, we might need our assistance from our customers, from our consumers, to better understand what their needs are, to really ensure that we're building a product that they're going to purchase, that they're going to want, that they're going to desire in the near future. But when it comes to fostering a sense of community, it goes back to what Miles had shared earlier, but just building upon it, it's that trust and transparency. You really can't develop a strong community of people, professionals, if you're talking about B2B, and expect them to want to be part of a community that's lackluster. You really have to create a community where it provides learning opportunities, where there's feedback, we call it the feedback loop, and when there's also opportunities for innovation where customers can say, you're not providing this service right now, but I think this would be really cutting edge. And being able to have those dialogues can actually help your business in the future. Being able to integrate that feedback, that customer explanation for what they believe would be what they need. Because at the end of the day, it's really how can our service better suit their needs? And the better you're able to understand what the community needs are, what your customer needs are, or what your business needs are, the more I believe your brand's going to stand out amongst the rest.
There is for sure a need between the customers and the organization. There has been so much research published that talks about the message that the CEO communicates to the outside world and actually make the company profitable or suffer losses. Even in Shark Tank videos, you can see that the entrepreneurial journey of an entrepreneur wins out the actual product. So how do you see the role of storytelling evolving in the B2B marketing sphere, and how can brands use it to connect with their audience on a deeper level?
In evolving B2B marketing, storytelling moves beyond simple product features to humanize brands, right? Storytelling, testimonials, case studies, in my opinion, that's make or break it. Because if I, as a consumer of your business product, for instance, if it doesn't really relate with my business needs, then I'm going to go someplace else. But if we have a relationship, right? If we're fostering deeper connections through relatable narratives and emotional resonance, ultimately building trust, like Miles shared earlier, and loyalty, then I'm more willing to go to this brand more consistently because I've built an established understanding that they're developing a product that I'm going to need. But here's how brands can leverage storytelling to connect with their audience. While B2B decisions are often based on logic, emotions still play a crucial role, right? Stories that evoke emotion, whether it's the relief of solving a persistent problem, the excitement of innovation, or the satisfaction of partnership, can be incredibly persuasive. I think sometimes we don't give enough credit to a good story because I believe the story tells about the problem, it tells about the process, and then it gives you the solution. And if you're not able to convey that in your storytelling in B2B marketing, then you're going to lose your base. You're going to lose the attention of those that you're trying to target because it's not resonating. And I think people are really drawn to their emotion. If they feel it, then they're going to do it, right? If they feel like purchasing said product, they're going to go out and purchase it with their credit cards or their debit cards. Now, if they're against it, then they're going to provide pushback and they're going to go to a competitor. Now, in order to get that, goes to my previous response, is that customer feedback. Because if you're not aware that your storytelling is a little bit off, then you're not going to be able to connect with your consumers. And then they're going to obviously, it's not going to help your business in the long run. But I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, Miles, because you are the expert in this space.
Thanks, Keenan. I have two ideas for storytelling. I think one is how you storytell, and then who is the doing the storytelling. And this, changes very differently depending on what type of marketing you're doing. I see one strategy. I'll start with, with who's doing it. So more and more, influencers and creators are a huge part of storytelling and marketing because I think businesses, especially primarily in B2C right now, they realize that, why have our big brand just do a post? Maybe a lot of people see our ad when we do a Super Bowl ad, but maybe they're not following our social media handles, and they're not going to see or care. Whereas if we have, creators, I'm kind of thinking about Coca-Cola right now, but creators who are cool, they're in touch with culture, they have unique perspectives, use cases potentially. How can we get them involved? And they have their own set of audiences that maybe as a brand we would have a hard time reaching, but using creators and influencers, they're going to do it even better than we could. And they'll become brand advocates, especially if they like our product already. I think this is a big thing and trend that is obviously happening in B2C. We see it a little bit in B2B, but not as much. I think that's going to grow, though. I think successful brands are going to do a lot more of that. And that kind of leads me to my second point of how you're doing it, especially with B2B. You kind of always hear, well, if you're a marketer, that it can be boring. It can be very technical and very focused on, what is the product, what are use cases, and what's the benefit, and what can I achieve with this? And because, a lot of money's on the line, businesses want to make sure that they do all their due diligence and they educate their customers, but they sometimes lose the sense of creativity and the fun aspect and that human connection that we've been talking about. And so going back, a little bit to Amazon, but different partnerships can be fun and engaging, like Ferrari and Formula One. That's a cool partnership. Amazon has so many partners, and I work in partner marketing, but those are more technology partners. But then, even those companies can, use fun stories or be involved with, I'd say, business partnerships like Formula One, where they use AWS technology in what they do and in racing. And that can paint a lot more fun of a story than a very formal case study of like, here's the product, here's what we learned. I think it's a balance too, as we've mentioned. So, you don't want to, you want to make sure to continue to share the benefits and the trade-offs with the product and what you can achieve, how it differentiates itself from a competitor. But I think storytelling is making it fun, and especially in B2B, continuing that fun. And that's why I think some of the things that I've done, just random examples where it'll be a cool story where obviously technology was involved. It was a case study of sorts, but it's touching. Like it helped libraries migrate their data or something, and now more students have access to books or to literature. Education is benefited because of this technology or this solution that a partner used or a customer used. And so, touching stories like that, I think are a great way to kind of latch onto those great stories and to use to let that pull people in and to lead with, those stories and not just, all the technical stuff that, you could read on a website or get like a white paper on or ebook on if you really want it.
For sure. Humanizing your message is extremely important, but there's so much noise online. So what would your advice be for brands trying to stand out and get noticed?
That's a big question, and because every company's trying to do it. They're trying to stand out and just see what works. And the biggest thing I come across too is, especially from leaders at companies and marketing organizations, I see it from like leaders asking, kind of people, boots on the ground, so to speak, like people like me that are, actively involved with running campaigns and ads and things. They always want to know, like, what's the silver bullet? What's going to help and make or break everything? And like, what do we need to focus on? I think with marketing, and especially with social media, because obviously that's what I do a lot of my job in, things are evolve at such a rapid pace that, you can try to create best practices and let them guide you, but you're probably not going to succeed if you're not actively trying new things and testing new things and reviewing the data of that and the results and kind of pivoting as you go. And continuing to optimize. And so, I think people should leverage testing as much as they can. I think so.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of noise right now on social media. Whenever you go from Facebook to Instagram to LinkedIn, I mean, it's almost as if the consumer is inundated with so much material that they literally have to catch your attention instantly in order for you to make a move or to do something behaviorally that's going to help their business. But one thing that I've seen or that I've been told throughout my journey, with Omega has just been consistency. I think it goes back to trust and transparency. Sometimes the best way to cut through the noise is being consistent. The saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's almost as if the more you're crying out, the more people are like, okay, what's going on here? It's almost as if you have to draw attention to yourself in order for people to say, okay, I'm interested in your business. What do you have to offer me? And that happens over time, and you have to do it strategically, and you also have to do it with the right messaging, going back to what I shared earlier. But one thing that I think is so important when it comes to cutting through the noise is really addressing the pain points. Like the more you pick at the other businesses' pain points in their business structure, and you're saying, hey, we have the solution, the more they're willing to say, okay, I can see that you have the solution to my problem. How are we going to go about doing that? And many times, I think that's more effective when it comes to cutting through the noise than just sharing a lot of beautiful imagery and designs and videos. I mean, a lot of companies are doing that, but when you watch the videos or when you hear the testimonials, it's not resonating. I think when you hit those target pain points and you address the pain points as they are and you show the solution, I believe 100% that you'll be able to cut through the noise.
Agreed. And to echo that, I realized, consistency that's the name of the game too. And having a long-term approach, because some things won't work, but if you know your audience and you know yourself and your brand and your company, then continuing to be consistent. And so that's I think half of it, but then the other half is knowing your audience. And so not creating content or marketing initiatives that you think are cool, but that based on data that the customer will think is cool. And if they don't, then you need to continue to pivot until you get some data that shows like, oh, okay, this is what they're thinking and what they want. And so I think when you start making content and creating, whether it's events or sessions or ads, it can be anything, a website experience, especially when you have the customer as your North Star, that's going to help you out a lot. And then once you know that, then being consistent so that whichever channel of marketing you're using, you build trust in your brand and then trust in your message and how you present it so that people will know what to expect. Like they'll know like, oh, if I attend this webinar, these guys do a killer job. They're very thorough. They do X, Y, and Z, which is what I need. Same with social media. I think a lot of with a B2C, but people like, different creators and influencers and sometimes brands even because they're funny or they hit an emotion that makes them laugh or engages with them. Or if it's like a product, then, they know like every post is a cool announcement of a product and they're excited to check it out. Because once you build credibility with your audience, then the more you give them what they want, the more they want more and they want to continue to be engaged. So I think consistency and knowing your audience is big, just like you were talking about, Keenan.
Agreed. And wrapping up, and Miles, this one is for you. What tips would you give young professionals who want to succeed in marketing, especially in the tech industry? Yeah,
great question. And I think there's a million things you can do, but some of the things that I've learned and found to be successful would be, as I've mentioned at the beginning, bias for action and being action oriented, especially when you start out in your career. I think at a certain point too, though, it's also knowing when to say no, but that kind of comes a little bit later. But, when you first get started, just doing all the projects you can do, especially getting experience in a lot of different areas of marketing. That was the thing that I learned when I joined AWS. I initially actually got hired as like a product marketing manager or, associate. But then, COVID happened. And so I was kind of redirected into partner marketing and then became a digital partner marketing manager. But I don't think I even really knew what product marketing was. And I definitely had never heard of partner marketing. And those are just two of the many areas of marketing. And that's just one part of a business. And so being able to, get comfortable with as many parts of marketing as you can helps. And then, once you're kind of, you hit the ground running and you've got some projects under your legs, building trust with leadership, because then they're the ones where, a new initiative will come along and they'll say, who do we have that can help with this, that we trust, that will do a good job, even if they're a little new to it. And those are like, the things that will get you promoted, the things that will probably excite you more than some of the day-to-day things in your job. Those are the things that the tasks that you'll grow in a lot. And so having as close a relationship as you can to your leadership is definitely, going to help you in the long run. Those are a few things of the many things I've experienced while at Amazon.
So interesting. And Miles, this was such a great session and this was so informative. Thank you so much, Miles, for being here. We appreciate your insights and contributions to this conversation. And I'm sure Keenan agrees as well. It was a great pleasure having you here as a guest today in today's discussion. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Manisha. And thanks, Keenan, for having me.